Exchange. Joining me now to take a look at the Mag 7 after a week full of earnings for the group. We want to welcome in our next guest. That's Phil Rosen, Chief of Market Strategist of ProCap Financial and founder of Opening Bell Daily. All right, Phil, we got some time before the opening bell today. I just want to get your big picture take on the Mag 7 as a group. There does seem to be some bifurcation. What's your thought?
The Mag 7 really have had to play catch up this year, and I think we've seen that in the last month. Everything came back with a pretty good amount of strength, but we've seen the separation with Nvidia, with Google, Alphabet leading the way. And to me, the earnings story this week reaffirmed that separation because we had so much strength from Alphabet, and the other stocks kind of fizzled out, so to speak. And Amazon was pretty good as well, but Alphabet really stood out to me as the big winner here.
And it feels like, because once upon a time it was a rising tide lifting all boats, and now it feels like, I don't want to call it a zero-sum game, but it's definitely becoming a tale of two different members of the Mag 7, and you wonder if we're going to whittle it down to the Mag 4. I'm not going to name names on who would be kicked out because I don't want anyone mad at us. Quick thought from you on these records. I mean, amazing, right? Momentum that we've seen in the market.
It is unbelievable, and this looks just like the V-shaped recovery that we saw a year ago with Liberation Day. So we went all the way down and then all the way back, and we just had the best stock market month, I think, in 6 years.
Yes.
And that is just mind-blowing considering how bearish sentiment got with the Iran conflict, with all the AI fears and people worried about semiconductors getting too stretched, and yet they keep going. So records are probably going to keep getting broken in this bull market right now.
It seems like it. I mean, given the direction of S&P futures right now. Let's talk Apple. I mean, they did well on so many metrics. The only soft spot seems to be iPhone sales, but it wasn't even really their fault when you think about it.
I mean, iPhone sales to me looked absurd. I think it was their best March quarter ever. So they did $57 billion in just iPhone revenue. And if you put that in context, that's more than Chipotle's entire market cap. So they're doing that in 3 months, what Chipotle does in its existence, right? So that is just an absurd stat. And Apple really, with their next CEO being a lifelong engineer in their hardware department, they are betting that hardware is going to shape the next stage of this AI era. And they're pretty much the only company in big tech that has a real hardware-driven guy as CEO. You look at Microsoft, Meta, even OpenAI, these are all software executives.
True.
Now they got a hardware guy coming in after Tim Cook, and I think that's going to be the big bet they're making. And if you think about their 2.5 billion user base, they have so much distribution, so much hardware already in the market that everything they're pointing to, they're just going to triple down on this hardware move here.
And when you're in the ecosystem, it's hard to get out because I sit here with an iPhone, a Mac, got AirPods, you name it, iPad, etc. Once you're in, it's hard to get out. What's interesting now is the grace that the market has on Apple for AI, and they're spending on AI because it was like, oh, where is Apple with regard to AI spending? And, they were discounted for some time, but now it seems like the market is treating Apple differently.
I think they realized that the hardware moat is pretty significant. And over the last year, everyone thought Apple was lagging in the AI race. But I think very recently, especially with earnings this week, people are realizing Apple wasn't even playing the same game. They're not trying to create AGI. They don't want a God-powered AI bot that's internal to their company because they can just essentially outsource that and put it into their massive hardware moat and distribution.
Let's talk Alphabet. Google just did a quick check on how it's been performing this week, up more than 10% this week alone. Strong outperformer when you think about the Mag 7. They did so well on their earnings. What's your take on Alphabet, Google?
Alphabet is probably going to eclipse Nvidia at some point in the next couple months, is my expectation. They're within 6% right now of Nvidia's market cap, and my expectation is that they will win the race to 5 trillion, the market cap 5 trillion. And people had the same assumptions about Alphabet as they did about Apple. They thought Google's lagging the AI race, and OpenAI's ChatGPT was supposed to kill search. That obviously did not happen.
Yeah.
Alphabet still looks absurdly profitable in every single vertical of its business. It has stakes in Anthropic and a bunch of other venture bets. So all of this points to a very diversified, robust fortress business. And this is probably going to be, this is my pick for the Mag 7 this year. I think it's going to outperform every single company. And again, that's not a contrarian bet by any means. That's probably what a lot of people think, but I'm very bullish.
No, I mean, listen, to reinforce that point, I recall that Dan Ives had expected both Alphabet, Google, and Nvidia to reach the $5 trillion market cap. I don't remember if he expected Microsoft to get there too, but Microsoft is some distance now. Like you mentioned OpenAI, but OpenAI has been seen as a negative. The exposure of Microsoft, along with the worries about agentic AI and the impact to the software space, that's really dinged Microsoft this year. But going back to Alphabet, Google, how much of a threat is Alphabet, Google to NVIDIA's dominance in chips?
I'm not really focused on whether they're going to compete in the chip market.
Okay.
I think both of them will continue to dominate. And if the AI promise and the AI boom is what we all expect it to believe, at least the bulls expect it to believe, both of those companies will do just fine. So they're not going to be too concerned about cutting it into each other's markets, I don't think.
And let me ask you this. Okay, so we started earlier in our conversation talking about the records. You know the adage on Wall Street, sell in May and go away. Are you bullish on May?
I would not be selling in May. I mean, I think generally we haven't seen the year pan out as a lot of people thought already, but a lot of that has been a lot stronger than what even the bulls expected. Okay. So if we just look at the last couple weeks, we've seen such absurd strength, especially coming from semiconductors. I don't know what the thing would be to derail that momentum. If it wasn't a conflict in the Middle East, and if it's not rising inflation fears, if it's not the changing of the guard at the Fed, I'm not sure what to point to put this bull market off course here. Yeah,
well, we certainly seem to put that geopolitical conflict under the rug right now. Hopefully that finishes sooner rather than later. All right, thank you, Phil. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. That's Phil Rosen. He is the Chief Market Strategist of ProCap Financial, also founder of Opening Bell Daily.
As big tech earnings test this record-breaking rally, my next guest says the market is priced in perfection and investors want to see real returns on AI spending. Let's bring in the retirement income source partner, Jeffrey Small. Jeffrey, it's great to see you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Let's talk about this because Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple have committed to pouring in, and this number still staggers me, $630 billion plus into AI infrastructure for the year. A lot of question marks about this. What do you make of their earnings in the pivot from promise to payoff? Because it's about the ROI, and at some point, if these companies don't deliver, they're going to get punished.
Well, it's not hype anymore. You're right. It's all about revenue. And so what we're really witnessing now is a turning point as the tech giants have been laying, groundwork by investing hundreds of billions of dollars in AI infrastructure. Now with earnings beginning to roll in, and some of which have already rolled in, we're starting to see who's turning that spending into actual results. And Microsoft and Amazon are already showing clear AI-driven revenue streams. Alphabet's accelerating cloud growth. Meanwhile, Meta and Apple have more to prove on how AI will boost their bottom lines. The market's rewarding those and showing real ROI on AI. And from here on out, cash flow speaks louder than ambition.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, the numbers have to add up. That's just a very simplistic way to describe this. So you note that each of their results played a specific role in the AI story. Guidance remains a central focus. So what are the roles? And does big tech remain a growth story fueled by the AI story, or is there something else there?
Well, there's nothing really there. We're still in early innings here, Cheryl. And so AI is absolutely the growth engine here. Each of these companies plays a unique role. Microsoft has a ginormous enterprise AI platform. Amazon, their AWS powers the infrastructure. Alphabet monetizes AI across ads and clouds. Meta's building AI-driven social experiences, and Apple's leveraging AI for its ecosystem. after these results, AI isn't just a buzzword, it's driving tangible revenue and future guidance. In short, big tech remains a growth story, now fueled by turning into real returns.
Yeah, well, certainly, again, you have to mention the fact that Meta, and again, it's because of the spend, the story on Meta, and there's big questions about the glasses and Zuckerberg's plan there, but, 8% in the downside. Nvidia, I know you like Nvidia. Let's talk about this, because you argue that tech could move higher, but it's now less about the story. It's more about how they execute that story. I'll point back to Meta with that one. But you like Nvidia, Google, and Amazon. These are names that you're buying into right now.
I really am. Those are the three stars of the Mag 7, and the Mag 7 is more about which ones not to own and which ones to own. And those are going to be the new generals. As long as those three do well, the market has the ability to move higher at these very high valuations. And so those are stocks that you definitely want to have in your portfolio. Those are my favorites of the Mag 7, actually.
What about Nvidia and the chip story, in particular with China? Does that worry you at all?
It does a little bit, but chips are flowing, and the United States government is taking a piece of that, as we know, already in place. But, as far as what's going to happen with China and everything else, it kind of remains to be seen. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, Jensen Huang's been very clear what he sees the future and what it looks like. Unfortunately, many officials in the administration disagree with that, but he certainly has been, let's say, just quote-unquote working the phone.
All right, folks, although Powell was known for hitting the stock market on Fed days, right? We know it, right? His average annual return ain't bad. He's right up there. Only one person in recent time has done better. I want to bring in PJ Morgan, Asset Management, their chief market strategist for the Americas, Gabriela Santos. This market seems to be increasingly reliant, though. This is one thing that some people talk, maybe the age of financial engineering. Between fiscal actions and monetary actions, corporate America is making out great. Are you concerned at where the Fed has become, so at the beck and call almost, it feels, for corporate America?
So I think for the Fed, as long as they don't do any harm from here, corporations can continue doing really, really well. What we mean by do no harm is don't raise rates into what's really a supply shock. Demand is really not that strong. This is not 2022. When it comes to the stock market, though, it's AI,
right.
Maybe deregulation,
right.
But it's all things
right.
AI, and that's what's driving a huge upgrade in earnings.
I want to get back to that market thing in a moment, but let me ask about sort of where we are with the Fed a little bit more, because is Wall Street putting too much hope into Warsh, you think?
So I think in terms of investors, it's not really expecting too much change, to be honest. It's a change in the chair, but not an overall change in the committee and the way that the committee is processing the data. But
the head of the chair, though, is expected to be dovish and expected to sort of cut rates and to be accommodative.
That's what I think is interesting about the three dissents, hawkish dissents today, which were really more about personnel than policy. I think it's a little bit of a preview of the discussions
I
to come.
hate to say it, but, it feels like a sort of a shot across the bow.
Exactly.
They threw down the gauntlet. We got a new chair coming in, but we ain't budging.
Exactly. Look, inflation is still part of our mandate. We'll still stay focused on it. And that's why I think inflation expectations are very well anchored. Mm-hmm. And really the change in leadership is a little bit more in the back burner when it comes to equities.
It's interesting because you already talked about essentially maybe the Fed having a look through with respect to oil. Sounds like that's what you're talking about. That brings us to the consumer. Okay, the consumer is strong. We always say the consumer is if it's the one person, but we know that the top 20% is most of it, and the rest of it's, the bottom 80% are there. Is this enough, though, to keep the overall economy going through any potential hiccups or bumps in the road?
I would say the consumer's okay. What's really, really strong is the top 20%. And here we're showing just the huge increase in wealth of that 20% of the population, rising home prices, rising stock prices. Now, if anything, the K is getting more K-shaped. Yeah. That's because of the rise in gasoline prices, which we think are about breaking even if you compare that to refunds by income.
All right, so we talked about the economy, we talked about the consumer. I want to get back to what you were talking about, AI, the AI lift, because you're really excited about this. You don't think it's a passing fancy?
Absolutely not. I think it's the fourth year of this AI investment, but it is certainly on a new season, meaning the way you actually invest in AI is just going to keep changing. Mag 7, what Mag 7? You've only have 3 actually outperforming the index this
Right.
year. This has really moved from who's doing the AI CapEx spending to who's receiving that AI CapEx spending. And it's semiconductors, hardware, electrical equipment, so power and metals.
And this is really amazing. I mean, and on an individual basis, we've got names that, again, I wrote off SanDisk a long time ago. I never, I wrote off Western Digital a long time ago. And you've got these names that are being resurrected. I mean, this is a very powerful force. And I don't think it ends anytime soon either.
And I think what's exciting, last year you were already getting some of those AI CapEx beneficiaries do well, but it was all about GPUs, that cutting edge new type of technology. No, you need the old school stuff too. You need the legacy tech. And as a result, you're seeing a much broader rebound from these AI CapEx beneficiaries.
Well, I miss you. Haven't seen a couple Fed meetings, so you stick around,
Good to be back, yeah.
We got a heck of a panel coming up, folks. All right.
A quick look at where the European markets traded in April. It was to the upside, as Ben mentioned. The FTSE was up a couple of percent, but nowhere near the kind of gains we saw in the United States. Vicious rotation, one might argue, out of everything into the US. And if you were ambiguous about what you had in the US, then just get it into the tech. But it wasn't just tech. It wasn't just tech. Actually, we saw the R2K, the DJTs, all these indices rallying really aggressively, the latter two up around about 12%. Let's take a look at Asian equities during the month of April and where they traded as well. Again, it was a volatile old time. The Nikkei, once again, being a home for a lot of that money. Kospi, look at that. That's a chip story, by the way. The Kospi and the TAIEX is about chips. It's about memory chips. It's about semiconductors. It's about people voracious for anything with a technology moniker on it. And the US markets themselves, we've got some big names within this as well. We've talked a lot about this. Let's go straight to the individual companies. Look, I mean, I can't even believe some of these moves. I mean, 114% higher for Intel. And it just begs the question, what did everyone miss before it rallied 114%? Look at Qualcomm, up 39%. These are enormous, enormous moves. And it does make me slightly nervous about the volatility we're seeing in some of these valuations and the further to get back into some of these stocks as well. I mean, look, the numbers out from Alphabet were brilliant, so great. Google should rally on the back of that. But, I mean, were they so mispriced beforehand? Did we so not understand what was going on in these stocks? I don't know.